Emma Collins first felt it on a quiet Thursday night, the kind of night when the whole street seemed to breathe slowly. Maple Street was calm, lined with tall trees and neat lawns, the kind of place where nothing dramatic was supposed to happen. She stood at her kitchen sink, sleeves rolled up, warm water running over her hands as she washed the last dinner plate. The house was still, too still. Daniel was home for once, sitting at the small wooden table behind her, scrolling through emails on his phone. The soft glow from the kitchen lights reflected on the window in front of her. That was when she noticed it, a shadow that didn't belong. Across the street, in the upstairs window of the pale blue house, two shapes stood behind thin curtains. They were still watching. Emma blinked and leaned closer to the glass. The shapes didn't move. She felt a chill slide down her spine. It could have been nothing. Maybe the angle of the light. Maybe her imagination playing tricks on her. But the feeling in her chest told her otherwise. She dried her hands slowly and tried to sound casual. "Daniel," she said without turning around. "Do you know the neighbors across the street?" Daniel looked up from his phone. "It's a blue house." "Not really. I think their last name is Parker." "Why?" Emma hesitated. She didn't want to sound paranoid. "I think they're looking over here." Daniel stood and walked toward her. He was tall, still handsome, in a quiet way, with tired eyes that told stories about long flights and hotel rooms. He followed her gaze out the window. There they were. Two shadows, side by side. Daniel let out a small breath. "Huh?" That was all he said. They stood shoulder to shoulder, staring across the street. The curtains in the blue house shifted slightly, like someone had adjusted their position. Emma felt heat rise in her face. "They've probably noticed we're new," Daniel said calmly. "Small-town curiosity." "By standing in the dark?" she asked. He didn't answer. The kitchen felt warmer suddenly, the air heavier. Emma became aware of how close Daniel was standing. She could feel the warmth from his arm against hers. It had been a long time since she had noticed something like that. Their marriage had not fallen apart. It had simply faded into something safe, predictable. Daniel traveled for work almost every week to Boston. Emma stayed home, working remotely, designing logos and brand packages for companies she would never visit. Their conversations had become about schedules, grocery lists, and whether the roof needed repairs before winter. Love was still there, but it had gone quiet. Across the street, the shadows didn't move. Daniel reached past Emma to turn off the kitchen faucet. The sudden silence made the room feel smaller. "They can see us clearly," he said softly. Emma swallowed. "Should we close the curtains?" He looked at her instead of the window, really looked at her. Not distracted, not rushed. "Do you want to?" The question caught her off guard. She didn't know why, but something inside her didn't want to pull the curtains shut. Something about being seen, even by strangers, made her feel awake. Like the world had noticed she existed. "No," she said quietly. "Daniels?" Lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. He stepped closer. The silhouettes across the street remained still. Emma felt her heart begin to race, though nothing dramatic had happened. Daniel's hand brushed hers. It wasn't an accident. It was slow, deliberate. The kind of touch that asked permission. She let her fingers curl around his. For months, they had barely touched beyond routine gestures. A quick hug before Daniel. Left for the airport, a tired kiss on the cheek before bed. Now standing in the warm kitchen light with strangers watching from a dark window, the space between them felt charged. Daniel's thumb traced small circles against her palm. "We used to dance in this kitchen," he said quietly. Emma smiled faintly. "That was years ago. We still can." Across the street, the curtain moved again. Emma's breath caught. Instead of fear, she felt something else, a spark of daring. It wasn't about the neighbors. It was about the fact that someone could see what they had almost forgotten. Daniel lifted her hand and pulled her gently toward him. She stepped closer without thinking. The world outside the window faded into a blur. For the first time in months, Daniel kissed her slowly. Not rushed, not distracted, just present. Emma felt her chest ache. She hadn't realized how much she missed this, missed him. They didn't move away from the window. They didn't lower the lights. And across the street, the shadows remained. Minutes passed, though it felt like seconds. When they finally pulled apart, Emma felt dizzy, not from the kiss, but from the realization that something inside her had been asleep and was now awake. Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "Maybe we've been hiding," he murmured. She nodded, unable to speak. The silhouettes in the blue house shifted again, then slowly disappeared from view. The curtain fell back into place. Emma exhaled. The moment was over. Or so she thought. The next evening, it happened again. They were in the living room this time. The television played softly in the background, but neither of them was watching. Emma sat curled up on one end of the couch. Daniel sat on the other, a quiet distance between them. Out of habit, she glanced toward the window. The blue house. The upstairs light off. But the curtain moved. She sat up straighter. "Daniel?" He followed her gaze immediately this time. Two shadows. "Clearer now. They're definitely watching," she whispered. Daniel stood and walked toward the window. Instead of stepping back, he stood directly in front of it. He didn't wave. He didn't react. He simply stayed there. Emma felt her pulse quicken. She joined him. The living room light made them fully visible. The watching continued. It felt strange, but not threatening. Curious. Intent. Daniel turned. Toward her again. "What do you think they see?" The question lingered between them. Emma looked at their reflection in the glass. A couple in their 40s. Tired, but still attractive. A little distant, maybe. A little unsure. "I don't know," she said honestly. Daniel studied her face. "I see someone I don't look at enough." Her throat tightened. The curtain across the street shifted once more, without breaking. Eye contact. Daniel reached for her waist. His touch was firm now, not hesitant. Emma felt a rush of warmth spread through her. They weren't performing, but they weren't hiding either. The next morning, sunlight poured into the house. Emma stepped outside to grab the newspaper. The air was crisp and cool. Birds chirped softly in the trees. That was when she saw it. A folded piece of paper placed carefully on their doorstep. Her stomach dropped. She picked it up slowly, her fingers trembling. The handwriting was neat and confident. "If you're going to put on a show, at least introduce yourselves." Her heart pounded. Daniel came to the door behind her. "What is it?" She handed him the note without speaking. He read it once, then again. Across the street, the blue house looked peaceful in the morning light. Normal, ordinary. But as Emma stared at the upstairs window, she saw the curtain shift slightly. Just enough to remind her they were still watching. And this time, it no longer felt like simple curiosity. It felt like an invitation. The note sat on the kitchen table all morning like it owned the room. Emma walked past it 3 times before she finally stopped pretending it wasn't there. Daniel stood by the counter with a cup of coffee, reading it again, his jaw tight but his eyes calm. Outside, Maple Street looked peaceful, but the blue house across the road felt closer than ever. "We can't ignore this," Daniel said. Emma crossed her arms. "We can try." He shook his head. "If we do, it turns into something bigger." She hated that he was right. By noon, the air between them had changed. It wasn't fear, it wasn't anger, it was something sharper. Curiosity mixed with pride. Neither of them liked the idea of being watched. But neither of them could deny what the watching had done. It had shaken something loose. It had pulled them toward each other in a way they hadn't felt in years. Emma stared out the living room window. The curtains in the blue house were open now. Sunlight poured into that upstairs room. She imagined the couple inside drinking coffee maybe? Talking about them? The thought made her cheeks burn. Daniel picked up his keys. "Let's end this." "End what?" she asked. "Whatever this is." Before she could change her mind, they stepped outside and crossed the street together. The walk felt longer than it was. Gravel crunched under their shoes. Emma's heart pounded harder with each step. The blue house looked friendly in daylight. Fresh paint. White porch railing. Flower pots near the steps. Daniel rang the doorbell for a second. Nothing happened. Then the door opened. The man standing there was tall and well-dressed, his hair slightly gray at the temples. He looked confident, but not arrogant. His eyes were sharp, like he noticed everything. "Hi," he said calmly. "You must be Daniel." Emma's stomach flipped. "And you're Emma," the man added, looking at her directly. Daniel didn't smile. "You left a note." The man nodded. "Yes, I did." A woman appeared behind him. She had soft blonde hair pulled back neatly and a composed expression that hid something restless underneath. "I'm Claire," she said gently, "and this is my husband, Liam." There was no denial, no embarrassment, just honesty. Daniel's voice stayed steady. "We thought it would be better to talk face to face." "It always is," Liam replied, stepping aside. "Would you like to come in?" Emma hesitated only a second before walking inside. The house smelled like fresh coffee and something sweet, maybe vanilla. It was neat, carefully arranged. Family. Photos lined the hallway walls. Vacations, holiday dinners, smiles frozen in time. They moved into the living room. Sunlight streamed through wide windows. "No curtains drawn now?" Claire gestured toward the couch. "Please." Emma and Daniel sat side by side. Liam and Claire took the chairs across from them. The space between them felt charged, but no one looked away. Daniel placed the folded note on the coffee table. "What exactly did you mean by this?" Claire glanced at it, then back at them. "We didn't mean to upset you." "It wasn't about upsetting us," Emma said quickly. "It was about watching." Liam leaned back slightly. "You're right, we were watching." The honesty landed heavily in the room. "Why?" Daniel asked. There was no anger in his voice. "It's just a need to understand." Claire answered first. "Because we noticed something." Emma's fingers tightened together in her lap. "What?" "The way you look at each other," Claire said softly. "Even when you're not trying." Emma almost laughed. "We're not exactly perfect." Liam gave a small smile. "We know." Silence stretched for a second. Then Claire spoke again, her voice lower now. "We've been married 17 years. Somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. We became polite roommates. We still care, we still function. But the spark." She paused. "It faded." Emma felt a sudden sting in her chest because she understood that feeling too well. Liam looked directly at Daniel. "One night, we saw you in your kitchen. You were just standing there, but the way you touched her hand? It wasn't routine. It was careful. It's like you were remembering something important." Daniel didn't speak, Claire continued. "We didn't watch to judge you. We watched because it made us remember who we used to be." Emma blinked, surprised by the shift. She had expected something darker, something bold and inappropriate. Instead, she heard longing. "You left that note," Emma said quietly. Liam nodded. "It was meant to be light. Maybe it came off wrong." "It did," Daniel replied. "I'm sorry," Claire said immediately. The apology felt real. The tension in the room softened slightly. Emma studied Claire's face. Was no mockery there, no games, just tired hope. "You were envious," Emma said carefully. Claire didn't deny it. "Yes." The word hung in the air. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You don't know what our marriage looks like when the lights are off?" Liam smiled faintly. "We don't need to. We know what it looks like when the lights are on." Emma felt her breath catch because they were right. The nights when someone had been watching were different. She and Daniel had stood closer, touched longer, kissed slower. Not to perform, but because being seen reminded them that they were still alive. Claire glanced at Emma gently. When was the last time you felt wanted? The question was direct but not cruel. Emma hesitated. Recently, she admitted. Because of all this, Daniel's hand found hers again without thinking. Liam noticed. His eyes softened. See, he said quietly to Claire. Claire's lips curved into a sad smile. The room felt less like a confrontation and more like a confession. Daniel looked around their living room. So what now? Claire exchanged a glance with Liam. There was history in that look. Years of shared secrets and quiet disappointments. We thought, Liam began carefully, that maybe talking would be better than watching. Emma understood. What he meant? Not something reckless. Not something physical, crossing lines. But honesty. The kind that most couples avoided. Wine appeared. Glasses were poured. The conversation shifted from tension to truth. They talked about work, about stress, about how easy it was to lose connection when life became routine. Claire admitted she had started standing at that upstairs window alone. At first, one night, she saw Daniel return from a trip. She watched Emma open the door before he could reach for his key. They had hugged in the doorway for longer than most couples did after years of marriage. That hug, Claire said softly, looked like it mattered. Emma remembered it clearly. She had almost cried that night. Daniel looked at her now, surprised. I didn't know anyone saw that. We did, Liam replied. And suddenly, what had felt invasive now felt reflective. Like looking into a mirror. The conversation grew deeper. No one raised their voice. No one crossed boundaries. But emotions ran close to the surface. Claire admitted she missed being looked at with desire. Liam admitted he missed being needed. Emma admitted she had felt invisible for months. Daniel admitted he had buried himself in work because he didn't know how to fix what felt broken. There were long glances across the room. Charged moments. But no one stepped past respect. At one point, silence filled the space. For adults sitting there, aware of how fragile love could become. We don't want to be spectators anymore, Claire said softly. Emma looked at Daniel. His eyes were steady. We don't want to be performers either, Emma replied. Liam nodded slowly. Then maybe we all just needed a reminder. The sun began to set outside, casting golden light across the room. The world beyond the windows looked calm. Daniel stood first. I think we understand each other now. Claire rose as well. I hope so. There was no handshake, no dramatic ending, just a quiet understanding as Emma and Daniel stepped outside. The air felt cooler. The street was still. They walked back to their house side by side. Halfway across, Daniel stopped. What? Emma asked. He turned to her fully. I don't want to go back to how we were. Her heart raced. Me neither. The blue house stood behind them. The windows open. No curtains moving. No one watching. Daniel stepped closer. Not for display. Not for anyone else. Just for her. He touched her face gently. Let's choose this, he said. She nodded. They didn't rush inside. They stood there for a moment in the open street, hands linked. Eyes locked, not hiding, not performing, just present. When they entered their house, the curtains remained open. The lights warm, but this time, it wasn't about who might see. It was about what they felt across the street. The blue house lights dimmed one by one, and for the first time since this began, the watching ended, because it was never about being seen by strangers. It was about seeing each other again,